What's going on, you squares? It's your boy Man Down, Zo 14 for the Man Down podcast. And we are continuing our series that has been gaining a lot of traction, especially in the comments. So we appreciate viewers and we appreciate the subscribers and the commenters on this so-called GOAT debate. In this one, we have Stephen A. Smith, as you can tell by the thumbnail and the title, basically just killing Kendrick Perkins in this Michael Jordan versus LeBron James debate. For those of you who have been with the Man Down Sports Channel for a while, you absolutely positively know that it is rare, if at all, that we agree with anything Stephen A. Smith has to say. But in this case, in some of this case, I should say, he definitely is spot on when it comes to placing Michael Jordan at the top. But before we get into that soundbite, here's a special word from our sponsors and that ugly boy Mel.
Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play fantasy sports. I want to tell you about the easiest way to get in on some NBA action with Underdog Fantasy and their pick'em game. Just find your favorite player or any player for that matter, pick higher or lower on that player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in one night. Pick between 2 or 5 players to fill your pick'em entry. Get every pick right, and you can net yourself some serious cash. Use the promo code ManDownSports, and you can get your deposit doubled up to $100. You got to check on the map to make sure your state is eligible to play Underdog Fantasy. But as soon as you do, and if your state is, go ahead and download Underdog Fantasy's app. Use the promo code ManDownSports, and you can, like I said, you can get that $100 match on your first deposit. And I would want to thank Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring Man Down Sports.
Yes, sir. So let's go ahead and get into that soundbite that Stephen A. had when it comes to the GOAT debate and Kendrick Perkins. Let's listen to what he had to say.
LeBron James is on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. One of the greatest players to have ever played the game. No doubt about it. He has exceeded expectation, and I have nothing but respect, profound respect for the greatness of LeBron James. But I have told you before, he never was, he never has been, nor will he ever be greater than Michael Jordan. It will not happen. It's not even a debate for me. I haven't even, listen, the only reason I discuss it is because people occasionally ask, and I always get annoyed at the question because I'm appalled that anybody would think I'm going to change my mind based on what I saw. There's nothing to discuss here. 10-time scoring champion, 9-time All-NBA defensive team, undefeated in 6 NBA Finals appearances, all MVPs of all 6 NBA Finals. LeBron has 6 losses. LeBron didn't show up in 1 NBA Finals, which was against Dallas. Okay, that's a fact. I'm not. Now you started off your conversation, Kendrick Perkins, like why you got to be the one at the party that's, talking about your birthday when it's somebody else's birthday or whatever the case may be. I'm the one that's got to do that because this is a time we should be celebrating the Herculean efforts, the greatness, the commitment to excellence, the superb play, the statesmanship, the ambassadorship of all things that are LeBron James. This dude is something special. Right. I will miss him when he is gone. Mm-hmm. The game should miss him when he is gone. He is nothing short of phenomenal. His children are watching, his wife, his mama, his wonderful mother, Gloria, his boys, Maverick and Rich, and everybody else in between, and all of these cats. And nothing but love for them and him. The man is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. He just ain't MJ. Because let me tell you something, man. Forget the stats for a second, because obviously he played a longer career and all of this other stuff. I love how somebody like you, and Christine, just in case you don't know, I'm sure you do, but just in case you don't know, Kendrick Perkins was this big dude, he was an enforcer. He wasn't there to score points, even though he could. Wasn't there to score points. He did a rebound. He did a defend. He did to beat people up. I know this because he got in fights in the back area. He know what I'm talking about. Kendrick Perkins fought a few people. You understand what I'm saying? He didn't mind. He didn't mind beating people up. This is what he was. Okay, I'm saying that to you to say the game of basketball was played at an elevated level of physicality back in the day. The road to prosperity, one could easily argue, was far, far more difficult. We're not talking about better talent, because the talent today is elite and supreme, and we get that. But it's also been helped and facilitated by changes in the rules that, dare we say, has softened the game to some degree and protected a lot of dudes. Not that LeBron would need that, because he's 260 pounds and people don't give him enough credit, because he could hurt people a hell of a lot more if he wanted to. But the point that I'm trying to make, when you think about what Jordan had to go through in order to be who he was, I'm talking about as an individual. You understand? We ain't talking about championships, even though he still has more championships than LeBron, even though he still has more league MVPs than LeBron, even though he still has more finals MVPs than LeBron, even though he still has more defensive player or defensive team. And he was a defensive player of the year, by the way, one year, okay, and deserved it about 2 other times. We don't even have to get into all of that. The reality is the way the game was called, what was allowed, the kind of crimes the opposition could get away with to derail you has to be taken into consideration. Kendrick Perkins is entitled to feel the way that he feels, and that's fine. All I'm saying is my mind on this specific topic will never change. LeBron James is number 2 all time, and Michael Jordan is number 1 all time.
He had me there. He had me there up until the end when he said who was number 2. But before we get into all of that, let's start from the beginning. He started with stats, and I am a proponent of, and I believe Mel said this earlier as well. Yes, stats have to be brought into the equation when the GOAT debate is discussed, but I don't think it is the end-all, be-all. It should be an outlier. I think it should be discussed when you have to find differentiating opinions when it comes to the people. So you do have to bring up the fact Jordan is 6-0. You do have to bring up his 10-time All-NBAs and 5-time All-Defensive Player. All defense, the Defensive Player of the Years, the scoring titles. You have to bring that stuff up when you talk about, when you're lobbying for MJ to be your GOAT. But that's only part of it. I think stats, period, is only part of it, because the only thing, if you went solely on stats, LeBron would win just off the simple fact that his numbers are going to be higher because he played much longer and is continuing to play much longer than pretty much anybody who's in the discussion. But so I'm glad he went on to say the physicality and the things that were allowed to do to offensive players, like hand checking and the physicality, just being simple run-of-the-mill fouls when they get clotheslined and things of that nature. Those things have to be taken into consideration, especially now, because LeBron has mastered, and I'm not even mad at him for it, he has mastered the manipulation when it comes to flopping and getting the calls that would possibly not be called back there in the Jordan era. Now, what I will say is the same thing that Stephen A. said. The talent level and the skill level, I do think it is superior now as far as the players that have the ability to do different things. It's far superior than it was in the era that Jordan was playing, but the physicality is far beneath the time that Jordan was playing. Now, he had me up until the end, and that was that LeBron being number 2. Now, while I agree with everything else that he said, I do believe that LeBron James is in the conversation for one of those Mount Rushmore positions, if you will. But I am a proponent of skill. And the reason I put Kobe number 2 is probably the same thing that Mel said in previous videos. When it comes to skill, there is nothing that I would rather have MJ do. If I say, okay, let's defend him at half court and make him shoot threes, he's shown that he has a capability of doing that at a consistent level. Of course, the 3-point shot wasn't as big of a factor in the game as it is now, but he's shown that he can do that if you wanted to force him that far out. Okay, let's see if he could be a passer. MJ has shown that he could be that. He's shown that he could be a two-way player, which is no such thing as just a basketball player in my eyes, especially in that era of the NBA. There's no such thing as a two-way player. It was a basketball player. You played defense because you had to play defense. Of course, there was some physical incapabilities in certain guys, so you knew they couldn't move as laterally as quick as certain as other people. But at the end of the day, you played defense. That's how it wasn't a two-way player. Every player was considered, or at least expected, to be a two-way player. LeBron in his early days, a lot of the chase down blocks, I would say that he was considered, quote unquote, a two-way player. But as the seasons and wore on, he knew that. I don't know if he knew that, but he played as if he knew that he had to be so much on the offensive side of the ball because of the style of play that he was used to, that he started, lacking on the defensive end. So I don't think that it's ever a conversation when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. But when it comes to Jordan, he was a complete player. I didn't have to worry if he went to the free throw line in the clutch. Excuse me. I didn't have to worry about a team trying to stick to defend him to where he had to shoot jump shots. I didn't have to worry about those things because I knew that there was capability in Michael Jordan that he was going to be able to come through in those situations. There are questions and there are times that you can have those questions looking back at his film that you would say, I'm not sure about LeBron James doing those things. That's just the fact. And I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not a Chicago Bulls fan. I'm not a Lakers fan. I'm not a Miami Heat fan. I'm not a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. I am not a fan of any of the teams of the guys that we are discussing on today. I am a basketball fan. So everything is completely subjective. Like, I don't care about an allegiance to a team. I'm a Hawks fan. None of these guys played for the Hawks. But what I will say is that Jordan has been supremely the athlete when it comes to the NBA that I have put on that number one spot pedestal. And how could you say that and not say that Kobe, who was basically the second coming of Michael, not be in that conversation as well? So I put Kobe number two as far as the GOAT debate. LeBron, if you put him at 3 or 4 or 5, that's not a slight. There's been a lot of players in the basketball in the NBA. There's been a lot. So putting him at that position, I don't feel like it's a slight. People are going to feel like it's a slight. And another thing that I want to bring up is the fact that, I'm glad that Stephen A. Went into the stats in the beginning, then swayed away from him and brought up another reason, because at the end of the day, a lot of the people who are weighing in on this GOAT debate didn't even see number 8 Kobe, much less LeBron. Much less Michael Jordan. They didn't see those things. So I think the eye test is very, very important. I was fortunate enough to see Jordan from his inception into the NBA until his first retirement, until his comeback, until his second retirement. I was fortunate enough to see Kobe from the time he got drafted by the Hornets to the time he was traded, all through his Laker career. And I was fortunate enough to see LeBron. So I have witnessed all three of these guys in their prime, in their greatness, and I can appreciate their greatness. But if I had to rank them, I have to agree with Stephen A. Smith, at least for number one, that Michael Jordan is that, and it's really not even a topic of discussion. I think the more LeBron plays, he's going to force that issue in his stands, not fans. His stands are going to force that issue too. But at the end of the day, there can only be one GOAT, and that is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Man, I appreciate it all listening to me for this 14, 15 minutes or whatever the case may be. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that post notification bell so you can know every time that we post. We're going to continue this debate. Keep going in those comments. I'm about to get on the comments right now and go back and forth with some of y'all, just as Mel was doing. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you shout out Man Down Sports to anybody who loves sports. Let them know. Hit that subscribe button.